you. Ms. Cabral, we are still in difficult economic times, and the Northern Virginia economy is tied so closely with the federal government. What actions would you take in Congress to encourage economic investments in Virginia?
Well, what I would do is, for one thing, not kick the can down the road like my opponent has done with sequestration. I would definitely encourage, as I had mentioned before, to grow our small businesses here. And also, we need federal investment in transportation solutions here. That gridlock on Capitol Hill that I could lay at the feet of 32 years of incumbency of Mr. Wolf is called gridlock on your roads. Dulles International Airport in the 10th Congressional District is an engine of commerce that we need to continue to grow and see that our businesses have access to deliver their goods and services to market. And he has fallen down on the job. He hasn't delivered there. Nice. So definitely invest in transportation solutions and small business.
Well, I know that Mr. Wolf is cognizant of the fact that the Northern Virginia economy is so closely tied to what happens in Washington and the federal government. You know, when it comes to government contracting, the contracting workforce. I know that I've met a gentleman who owns a government contracting company earlier today. You know, I think the delegation is very worried about what's going to happen. I think, you know, the federal government made a huge investment in Northern Virginia over the past, you know, several decades. You know, and I think that will continue. But, you know, what needs to be done is Mr. Wolf believes there needs to be an honest discussion, a bipartisan discussion on the deficit and spending and, you know, closing off certain tax loopholes to industries that shouldn't have them, like NASCAR, like the dog track owners, like the hedge fund managers. All this stuff needs to be, Mr. Wolf believes that all these issues need to come and be discussed in an appropriate manner in Congress.
All right, thank you.
Congressman Connolly, in 2007, a mentally ill Korean American shot and killed 32 people in Virginia Tech. And more recently, a male white supremacist shot and killed 6 people at a Sikh temple in Oak Creek, Wisconsin. In light of these events, what are your views on gun control and rights, especially in the context of mentally unstable individuals?
I was chairman of this county when the Virginia Tech tragedy occurred. We buried 8 young Fairfax men and women, one of whom was the shooter. I stood with the Korean American community, many ceremonies, including one right here, to mourn the dead and to heal among the living. That tragedy is seared in my mind. I favor reasonable gun control laws. I do not believe it is your Second Amendment right to bring an Uzi into this government center. I do not believe it is your Second Amendment right to bring guns and other dangerous weapons into a youth recreation center or into a police station or into a mental health facility. Right now in Virginia, all of those things are perfectly legal if you've got the right permit. I think we've gone too far with respect to the idea that we ought to have unfettered access to guns, and I favor reasonable gun controls to protect the public.
Thank you very much. And to wrap things up, we're going to go ahead and give each person 2 minutes to sort of sum up what you'd like to say here. If we could start with Congressman Jim Moran in the 8th Congressional District in Austin, Durham.
Sure. The congressman wishes he could have been here tonight. He had a family engagement, so was unavailable. But I just wanted to, I guess, point out a couple of things that the congressman's been working on over the last couple of years that have, you know, a crossover with or effect on the Asian Pacific nations. He's currently working on a bill that would allow the increase of the H-1B visas for people from Korea. That's one key piece. Another is that HRES 484 introduced this year, which condemns repression by Vietnam's government on community organizers, bloggers, and activists. Another bill that he's co-sponsored is H.R. 1410. It would stop an increase in assistance to Vietnam until the government makes progress on religious freedoms and freedoms of minorities in that country. As I stated previously, he's a strong supporter of the Korean Free Trade Agreement, Trans-Pacific Partnership. He's a strong backer of that. He recently, in the last year, had a U.S.-Asia business conference to help small business owners find ways to work with countries in Asia on business opportunities. Brought in a bunch of different speakers from the different agencies. And he's also traveled extensively in the country. He's been to China, he's been to Indonesia, he's been to Korea, he's been to Vietnam, Laos, all throughout the region. So he understands, kind of the challenges and the opportunities that present themselves. So just wanted to pass along his best wishes to you guys and the organization, and thank you for having this event.
Thank you. And Colonel Patrick Murray.
Well, thank you all again for coming out tonight. It has been a pleasure being here. Look, we're not going to agree on everything, but what we need is people who are willing to cooperate. And I have a background and a history in that. And I did that in the military when I was in Iraq with Sunnis and Shias and Kurds. And I did it when I was in the Balkans with Serbs and Croats and Albanians. And I like to say, if you think it's tough with Democrats and Republicans, try those folks, because it is much more problematic. But if you are willing to listen and you're willing to put people over partisanship and politics, then you can accomplish anything, especially in this country. I know that's why you're here. And when I used to talk to those people, when I worked in embassies around the world, about why they're coming and getting another perspective of America, ladies and gentlemen, you're type A. You want to come over here and work because you want to get ahead. You're willing to work hard. You're not standing there risking life and limb to get over here and spending your life savings so you can get on 99 weeks of unemployment or Obamacare. You're coming over here to work hard. I believe that. And I believe that what we need are people in Congress who are willing to put people over politics and get us out of this recession, because that is what we're in. And we need people who put small business first. My opponent gets a 0 rating from the NFIB, National Federation of Independent Business, gets an F rating from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. I want to work with small business, empower small business. Small business will get us out of this recession. Small business will create jobs in Northern Virginia and across America, keep us strong, and that's how we have a future where our kids don't have to deal with the $16 trillion of debt that's come about because Congress, both sides, refuse to put you all over their own partisanship. Thank you for coming out tonight. It's been great being here.
In the 10th Congressional District, representing Congressman Frank Wolf, Jason Chung.
Thank you very much, Sherry. First of all, thank you very much for having me, and I apologize. I know Mr. Wolf had a previous engagement, could not be here tonight. Congressman Wolf is a dedicated public servant in the truest sense of the term. He's served his constituents with distinction and honor for over 30 years. He's devoted to the well-being of his constituents and looks for ways to assist them not only in Washington, but also in the 10th District itself. His constituent services are unparalleled, for veterans seeking their benefits, to the elderly seeking their Social Security checks, to individuals seeking to become citizens of our great country. But more importantly, Frank Wolf is a dedicated public servant to the Asian American community. Whether it's speaking out about human rights abuses in North Korea, to the abuses that are going on with the captive Vietnamese American in Vietnam. He has spoken out, he has written letters, he has called attention to this to the Secretary of State. Additionally, he has done so much in terms of transportation and infrastructure in this region. We wouldn't have the growth at Dulles Airport without Congressman Wolf. You wouldn't have the Silver Line going out there. You wouldn't have the vigorous oversight of the Metropolitan Washington Airport Authority Board without Congressman Wolf. He has highlighted, furthermore, On transportation, on Route 66, you wouldn't have the vast improvements without Congressman Wolf getting together with Congressman Conley and Congressman Rand and improving the flow for us to get to work in Washington and into Tyson's. You know, on a personal level, you know, I go to church with Frank Wolf. I know what type of person he is. I know how much he cares about me, my family, and also the families he represents. Thank you.
Ms. Kristen Cabral?
Well, thank you again to the Asian Pacific American community for inviting me to this Issues Forum. It's been quite an honor to participate, and thank you for hosting. I'm running to provide fresh leadership in a broken Congress. I worked hard to achieve the American dream, and as your Congresswoman, I'll work hard to ensure that our children, particularly those who are Asian Pacific Americans, can achieve it too. It comes down to education. I grew up with working class roots, and I was one of the first children in the preschool program called Head Start. I was the first woman in my family to go to college, and I myself paid for college and Harvard Law School. I was able to achieve the American dream because of Pell Grants, low-interest student loans, and part-time jobs like at McDonald's. I couldn't have afforded my education without the investment of the taxpayers. Now, I want to serve the people of Virginia in the Congress. The misguided actions of my opponent Wolf and his party has caused massive deficit, delayed action on our economic recovery, and policies that will hit a hurting middle class even harder, especially access to a solid education. When elected, I'll protect and grow educational opportunities that lead to economic success. Thank you.
And last but not least, in the 11th Congressional District, Congressman Jerry Conley.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for to the American Asian Pacific Candidates Forum and to all who made tonight possible, and thanks for coming out. I think we ought to be asked, though, what have you done for the Asian community? For 18 years in public life, I have partnered with your community in almost every respect. I introduced the resolution here in Fairfax County that requires the flag of the Republic of South Vietnam to be flown along with that of the government of Vietnam. I already mentioned the Virginia Tech tragedy and working with the Korean American community, but I have worked on rezoning issues to make sure that people can worship in Korean Buddhist temples and Vietnamese Buddhist temples and in Christian churches, especially in the Korean community. I work to save the Korea dry cleaners in this county. We talked about small businesses. 300 small Asian-owned family businesses were at risk if the big box guys came in with impunity. I stopped that. And we saved 300 small businesses in this community. Asians to boards and commissions, many of whom are here tonight. We made sure we promoted Asians in our workforce. Many of our departments were headed by Asian Americans from all different stripes in all different countries. I've hired 7 Asian Americans to my staff in Congress and on my campaign staff. I've had dozens of Asian Americans as interns in my office. I co-chair the Korea Caucus in Congress. I co-chair the Turkey Caucus. I co-chair the Taiwan Caucus. I am an active member of the Vietnam Human Rights Caucus. I put my money where my mouth is. I welcome the diversity in Fairfax County. I welcome the vibrancy and the dynamism of the Asian American community. I have fought to make sure ours is a welcoming community, not just in word, but in deed, and I will continue to fight for you in the next 2 years with your support. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all of our congressional representatives, as well as the candidates themselves, for coming and joining us tonight.